Namaste. Aloha. My name is Janapati Das. Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita as it is class. And please accept my respects, everyone. Let me offer my obeisances to Jagat Guru Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, and I lay my head at his lotus feet. And to Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, I offer my obeisances. We will start off with some chanting Krishna's name, so please join along. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Toda Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Hari Go, Nita Go, Nita Go, Hari Go. 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Namosita Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gaurakaruna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasthayate. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, continuing on in chapter 18. So, some really important verses that we've been reading through, summarizing the importance of surrender to Krishna and how a person can surrender of Krishna, just thinking of Krishna, devoting one's life to Krishna, and not being envious of Krishna, which is a status which we are finding ourselves in this material world, envious of God. And we may not say, oh, I'm envious of God, but really we want to be the supreme controller. We want all the best things for ourselves. And we try and we try and we try and we just can't be satisfied, as the Rolling Stones would sing. And we won't be able to, because of our nature as spiritual entities. Our true happiness is in loving relationship with Krishna. And that comes from an understanding and knowledge of understanding who we are and what our purpose is. We start from the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita with Krishna telling Arjuna that you are not your body nor mind, but you are a spiritual entity. The spirit soul is the eternal servant of Krishna and has an eternal function to be rendering loving service. So we have left off at text 68. Ya idam paramam guyam mad bhakti piteshva vabid hashyati bhakti mai param kritva mam evashyati ashamshaya. Ya, anyone, idam, this, paramam, most guyam, confidential, mat, mine, bhakteshu, amongst devotees of, abhidashyati, explains, bhaktim, devotional service, mai, unto me, param, transcendental, kritva, having done, mam, unto me, eva, certainly, ishyati, comes, ashamshaya, without doubt. Translation: for one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. So, our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, has stated that the greatest gift one can give to him is by chanting Krishna's names, and chanting Krishna's names to be happy. But even more so than what makes the spiritual master happy is when we bring others to chant Krishna's names as well. So we don't just, this is, explaining the secret, the supreme secret to devotees. And this is the key to render loving service to Krishna, it is the meaning of the Bhagavad Gita. It is the meaning of life. Generally, it is advised that Bhagavad Gita be discussed amongst devotees only, for those who are not devotees will neither understand Krishna nor Bhagavad Gita. Those who do not accept Krishna as he is, and Bhagavad Gita as it is, should not try to explain Bhagavad Gita whimsically and become offenders. Yeah, so a lot of times when people come into the process of, we have, because of Kali Yuga, people are, it's not to say that everybody's like that. There are a lot of people that are very attracted to philosophy, but I was very attracted to the philosophy, but I was also very attracted to the chanting. Sometimes it's easy to become kind of like a fanatic when you come to chanting, because you feel really great. You feel very good, and you think everybody should have this. But the problem is that not everybody wants to have that, or is not able to hear it. So it's important to understand where people are at. You give people Krishna by chanting, and you see their receptivity to hearing about the Bhagavad Gita, but one should not try to explain the Bhagavad Gita whimsically and become offenders. And just like, oh, this means this and this means that, and without really understanding. Bhagavad Gita should be explained to persons who are ready to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is not a like, we're going to convert you with like the facts, the facts only, man. This is giving philosophy to the receptive person who wants to consider. Just like we've explained in the past that our spiritual master has cited that Vedic knowledge is like coming into a banquet of a great spread of food, and you're starving, but you have to, just take a little, a plum or something, and, eat it and digest it and understand it. You can't just be like, there is the people who try to understand the Bhagavad Gita from a sort of mental speculation kind of, or mental concept, without really understanding that this is not just, there is Gyani, there is knowledge, there is understanding, but there's application, there is a direct experience, realization that one cannot get. And this is what's said, that in modern knowledge, it's about what you accumulate. It's like, I've been watching all these things, and I've been reading all these books, and I'm accumulating these knowledge, and it's like my palette of information to be able to debate and defeat people. But I have no real connection to that knowledge. It doesn't, other than trying to defeat people in their arguments. But in Vedic knowledge, you're given the process of sadhana bhakti, primarily the hearing and chanting of Krishna's names, to purify your heart, to bring about realizations, and I've heard this really nice analogy by Acharya Das that stated that, there are places in the world, one of them was where I grew up in California, that would have really, Sacramento, they have really dense fog. And if you know fog, you can't really see through it. This is like our conditioned state. But when the sun comes up, it lights things up. You may still not be able to see, but eventually, over time, the sun burns away the fog. And so that you start to see, oh, there's buildings there, there's trees there, this is this right there. I can see the cars in front of me, actually, because some of those fogs in Sacramento would be so bad that you get pile up because you don't see the cars in front of you. So understanding the Bhagavad Gita is really, you read the Bhagavad Gita in the process of applying the sadhana bhakti in your life, the chanting of Krishna's names, most importantly, to purify the heart so that realizations shine through, so that when you read the Bhagavad Gita, it's confirmed by the Lord in the heart. You see it, you maybe read it millions of times from the mental sort of thing, like, I've read the Bhagavad Gita, I remember meeting somebody. I was in the Philippines many years ago, and we were doing outreach and selling our Gurudev's booklets. And this guy came up and he said, I've read the Bhagavad Gita 25 times. Have you read it? I just thought, well, did you understand it? Did you get any realizations from it? So, yeah, it is a subject matter for the devotees only and not for philosophical speculators. We're not here to speculate. So much of the translations of Bhagavad Gita about speculation. Like this might mean that, this means that, and this is that, and this is that. We are having the Bhagavad Gita for our self-realization. Anyone who, however, tries to sincerely present Bhagavad Gita as it is will advance in devotional activities and reach the pure devotional state of life. As a result of such pure devotion, he is sure to go back home, back to Godhead. So I am reading this. I am sharing what my spiritual master has taught me. And the greatest thing that my spiritual master said or he said that the greatest thing to do is to give people Krishna's names. And if you chant Krishna's names, the Bhagavad Gita is non-different, so that you will see what the Bhagavad Gita is. Many times people, before they chant, they try to read this, they may not understand it at all. But if you chant, you will hear it, you will see it. Text 69. Nacha tasman manush yeshu kashin me priya kritma bhavita na cha me tasmad anya priya taro bhavat bhuvi. Na, never, cha, and tasmat, therefore, manush yeshu, among mankind, kashit, anyone, me, my, priya kritamaha, more dear, bhavita, will become, na, no, cha, and, me, my, tasmat, than him, anya, other, priya tala, dear, bhuvi, in this world. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. This is really wonderful because I've seen this underneath the picture of my Guru Dev. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he. You know, the devotee of Krishna explains the supreme secret to Krishna because he has been given this supreme secret by his spiritual master, and so on and so on. Just as Krishna had shared the supreme secret, the most confidential knowledge, with Arjuna, Krishna is eternally grateful for the devotee of Krishna who does this, teaches us people about Krishna. And of course, Krishna is more dear to the devotee. So there's a competition of love going on between the devotee and Krishna. Very sweet. There's no one more dear than the servant who bring the living entities back to Krishna. Because Krishna loves us all. Krishna is our dearest, most friend who loves us. And he loves us so much that when we turn our back to him, he lets us go. But he's reminding us still, you know, I'm here. I'm here if you need me. Just like the wayward child is like, you know, okay. And the mother's like, well, if you need anything, I'm here for you. But it's the hardest thing. It breaks Krishna's heart that we turn our back, that we are so callous to him. But, you know, when we turn back to him and say, dear Krishna, I am the most fallen and I've gone away from you. Just like the prodigal son in the story of Jesus. The father was not, he was just willing to go back to his father and be a servant, like a slave, not even a paid slave, just a slave for, and the father was so happy, gave him coats and rings and brought him back to his home and was so happy that he came back. And Krishna is very happy too, and is in love with the devotee who dedicates their life to bringing the wayward souls back to him. Text 70. Adyeshate chaya imam dharmayam samvadam avayo gana yajena tenaham ishtashyam iti me mati adeshyate, will study, cha, also, ya, he, imam, this, dharmyam, sacred, samvadam, conversation, avyoho, of ours, gana, knowledge, yaganena, by sacrifice, tena, by him, aham, I, ishtaha, worshipped, shyam, shall be, iti, thus, me, my, matihi, opinion. Translations, text 70. And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation worships me by his intelligence. Very beautiful. That's so wonderful. Ishtaha. I want to look that word up. All these worshipped, you know, they're different flavors and different meanings than just worshipped, right? But when we are going through the Bhagavad Gita, we are actually praising Krishna, because Krishna is very grateful that we are sharing the message of the Bhagavad Gita with each other. The message that do not fear, that Krishna, just surrender to God. Understand your identity as spirit soul, as a child of God. We're all children of God, and we'll never be happy away from God. Taking God out of our life, just thinking and trying to play the king or the Godhead, has never made us happy, and it's just making us more and more miserable as we endlessly try to search for the satisfaction, this union with Krishna that we mistakenly think is some kind of material sense enjoyment or something, or something in this world that will make us more happy, just like fallible soldiers, that they will never save us. Text 71. Shraddhavan anusyascha shruyad api yo naraha sopi muktaha shubhalokan plabnuyat punya karmanam. Shraddhavan, faithful, anashuyacha, and not envious. Shnuruyut, does hear, api, certainly, yaha, who, nara, man, saha api, he also, mukta, being liberated, shubhan, auspicious, lokan, planets, prapnuyat, attains, punya, karman, of the past. Translation, text 71. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reaction and attains to the planets where the pious dwells. In the 67th verse of this chapter, the Lord explicitly forbade the Gita's being spoken to those who are envious of the Lord. In other words, Bhagavad Gita is for the devotees only, but it so happens that sometimes a devotee of the Lord will hold open class, and in that class all the students are not expected to be devotees. Why do such persons hold open class? It is explained here that although everyone is not a devotee, still there are many men who are not envious of Krishna. They have faith in him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If such persons hear from a bona fide devotee about the Lord, the result is that they become at once free from all sinful reactions, and after that attain to the planetary system where all the righteous persons are situated. Therefore, simply by hearing Bhagavad Gita, even a person who does not try to be a pure devotee attains the result of righteous activities. Thus, a pure devotee of the Lord gives everyone a chance to become free from all sinful reactions and become a devotee of the Lord. Yes, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada in our, I can speak, hearing this from my spiritual master, that Bhaktivedanta was so compassionate. He initiated the most unqualified, devotees, unqualified people who, many who fell away, many who did terrible things and very offensive things. But Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was like the sower that Jesus Christ talks about, where you threw the seeds of Krishna prema to different places. Some landed on rock and some landed on a little bit of shallow dirt, and they chanted for a while and they left. Some grew, and as our spiritual master, some were very fruitive. But that is the eternal mercy and compassion of the devotee of Krishna, that they would go out of their way to give people the chance, or even just to hear some chanting. Even if they went away or they did offensive things, they were still given the opportunity. They, I don't know how many of them fully realized the great fortune that they threw away. They squandered. My spiritual master said, sometimes it's better that a person who doesn't know about Krishna than a person who knows about Krishna but doesn't do anything about it, or squanders or throws it away. Generally, those who are free from sinful reactions are righteous. Such persons very easily take to Krishna consciousness. The word punya karmanam is very significant here. This refers to the performance of great sacrifice. Those who are righteous in performing devotional service but who are not pure can attain the planetary systems of the pole star, or Dhruva Loka, where Dhruva Maharaj is presiding. He is a great devotee of the Lord, and he has a special planet which is called the pole star. Text 72. Kachidichat krutam pata tavyai kargrena chetasha kachat agana samoda moha pranashtashte dhananjaya kachit whether etat this shrutam heard parta osana prita tvaya by you ekagrena with full attention chetasa by the mind kachit whether aganana ignorant samoha illusion pranashaha dispelled te of you Dhananjaya, O conqueror of wealth. Arjuna. Translation, text 72. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, have you heard this attentively with your mind? Are your illusions and your ignorance now dispelled? So now he's asking, have you heard this, focused your mind on what you're hearing? Are your illusions and the ignorance of what you brought to me about not fighting and everything else now dispelled? Purport, the Lord was acting as the spiritual master of Arjuna. So this is the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita that we will see again in the Srimad Bhagavatam and actually in Vedic literature all over the place. This is how Vedic knowledge is disseminated. The spiritual master, who's had a spiritual master, is giving to a attentive and humble disciple. The spiritual master, in this case, even though he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he is the original spiritual master, he is Guru Dev. And he is Guru, right? And Guru is one. So when we hear, even though there's a disciplic line of numerous spiritual masters in the lineage, Guru is one. They aren't teaching anything other than what Krishna is already teaching in the Bhagavad Gita. You don't see any deviation. If you do, then you have to question why. Question what are they talking about, or if they really are bona fide. Therefore, it is his duty to inquire from Arjuna whether he understood the whole Bhagavad Gita in its proper perspective. My spiritual master always says, do you understand? Do you understand? He says that a lot because he wants to make sure that we understand. He doesn't just teach and then we're still confused. If we don't understand, it's his duty to educate us about. If not, the Lord was ready to re-explain. Therefore, it was his duty to inquire from Arjuna whether he understood the whole Bhagavad Gita in its proper perspective. If not, the Lord was ready to re-explain any point, or the whole Bhagavad Gita, if so required. Actually, anyone who hears Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna or his representative will find that all his ignorance is dispelled. Bhagavad Gita is not an ordinary book written by a poet or fiction writer. It is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any person, if he is fortunate enough to hear these teachings from Krishna or from his bona fide spiritual representative, is sure to become a liberated person and get out of the darkness of ignorance. Text 73. Arjuna uvachta nashto maha smritir labda tavat prasadan maya chuta stitosmi kata sandeha kalisha vachanam tava. Arjuna uvacha. Arjuna said, Nashta, dispelled, maha, illusion, smriti, memory, labda, regained, tavata prasadat, by your mercy, maya, by me, achuta, O infallible Krishna, stita, situated, ashmi, I am, gata, removed, sandaha, all doubts, kalishe, I shall execute Vachanam, order, Tava, your. Translation, text 73. Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy." And everything is Krishna's mercy, but this is definitely, that's why when we hear from the spiritual master is the external manifestation of Krishna's mercy and compassion. And by the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives Krishna, one receives the knowledge about Krishna. I am now firm and free from doubt, and I am prepared to act according to your instructions. So this is a disciple now. He's heard, he's applied, he's understood, and he's ready to do what he needs to do in the service of Krishna without any attachment to the results of whether it goes one way or the other. He just wants to offer his service in love to Krishna. The constitutional position of a living entity represented by Krishna is that he has to act according to the order of the Supreme Lord. He is meant for self-discipline. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the actual position of the living entity is that of eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. Forgetting this principle, the living entity becomes conditioned by material nature. Yes, by taking shelter, not taking shelter of Krishna, we are taking shelter of Krishna's external energy in the form of Maya Devi and the material energy. We're not independent. We're not just like, I'm making my own decisions. No, you're under the control. People are so arrogant because they think that these are little tiny beings in the universe, and we have very little, if none, control over anything. But taking the shelter of the material energy is consistently changing, and that is a whole like maze or labyrinth to get lost into. Forgetting this principle, the living entity becomes conditioned by material nature, but in serving the Supreme Lord, he becomes the liberated servant of God. The living entity's constitutional position is to be servitor. He either has to serve the illusory Maya, right, or the Supreme Lord. But both is Krishna, really. One is indirectly, one is directly. If he serves the Supreme Lord, he is in his normal condition. Normal. That is normal. But if he prefers to serve the illusory external energy, then certainly he will be in bondage. That's a very interesting point, because when we do not serve Krishna, we're actually in bondage. We're not free. There's this saying, free to be me, you and me, right? Or free to do what I want to do. And we're in this Pride month where people just feel like they're free to make their decisions. They have that decision, but they're not really free in acting in this. They're in bondage. They're in bondage under the material energy. The illusion, the living entity is serving in this material world. In illusion, this living entity is serving in this material world. He is bound by his lust and desire, and yet he thinks of himself as the master of the world. You don't tell me what to do. The church doesn't tell me what to do. God doesn't tell me what to do. I'm my own master. This is called illusion. Yeah, it's illusion. It's the greatest illusion to think that we're in control. It's like the emperor wears no clothes. You know that story. There's a fairy tale that the emperor was fooled by his tailor. He said, "Oh, I have this amazing clothes that nobody sees, but actually is the most magnificent clothes. Actually, you're the only one who doesn't see it, but everybody else is, Anyway, he was fooling him, right? And so the king started to believe him. Oh yeah, I have the most beautiful clothes, but he was just naked in front of all of his servants." When a person is liberated, his illusion is over, and he voluntarily surrenders unto the Supreme to act according to his desires. The last illusion, the last snare of Maya, is to trap the living entity. To trap the living entity is the proposition that he is God. The living entity thinks that he is no longer a conditioned soul, but God. He is so intelligent. Yeah, so, you get the impersonalists who are like, well, yes, I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, but I am spirit, aham brahmasmi, but actually, what they say, soham, I am that. I am the Supreme. They say, the impersonalists say, I am the Supreme. I'm actually God. But this is actually the last trap, because there's really only one God, and it's not us. The living entity thinks that he is no longer a conditioned soul, but God. He is so unintelligent that he does not think that if he were God, then how could he be in doubt? That he does not consider. So that is the last snare of illusion. Actually, to become free from the illusory energy is to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to agree to act according to his order. The word moha is very important in this verse. Moha refers to that which is opposed to knowledge. Actual, real knowledge is the understanding that every living being is eternally servitor of the Lord. But instead of thinking oneself in that position, the living entity thinks that he is not servant, that he is the master of this material world, for he wants to lord it over the material nature. That is his illusion. This illusion can be overcome by the mercy of the Lord or by the mercy of a pure devotee. Yes. So the first thing that the spiritual master instructs, he actually brings a person to chant Krishna's names, but one of the first things you learn in in meditation classes is, who am I? And you learn Aham Brahmasmi, I am not my body, I am not my spirit. That's a pretty major first step. Because if you don't think you're your body, that's a pretty major thing. You're not the controller, but you might then conclude that you are God. But actually, we teach that also in meditation, that you're not God. Actually, it's very relieving to know that I'm not God. That's just too much responsibility. I have a hard enough time trying to do my job. It's like, gotta be God too? Come on. Krishna consciousness is acting according to Krishna's order. A conditioned soul illusioned by the external energy of matter does not know that the Supreme Lord is the master who is full of knowledge and who is the proprietor of everything. So Krishna is the master. He's the one who is completely in knowledge, and he is the owner and controller of everything. Whatever he desires, he can bestow upon his devotees. He is the friend of everyone, and he is especially inclined to his devotee. He is the controller of this material nature and of all living entities. He is also the controller of an inexhaustible time, and he is full of all opulences and all potencies. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can even give himself to the devotee. One who does not know him is under the spell of illusion. He does not become a devotee, but a servitor of Maya. Arjuna, however, after hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, became free from all illusion. He could understand that Krishna was not only his friend, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he understood Krishna factually. So, to study Bhagavad Gita is to understand Krishna factually. When a person is in full knowledge, he naturally surrenders to Krishna. When Arjuna understood that it was Krishna's plan to reduce the unnecessary increase of population, he agreed to fight according to Krishna's desire. Not our desire, but Krishna's desire. Right? When Jesus Christ says, I and my Father are one, he says our wills are linked. In other words, Jesus Christ's will is Krishna's will. He dovetails his desires to God's desires. He again took up his weapon, his arrow and bow, to fight under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 74. Sanjaya uvacha iti yam aham Vasudevasya Partasya Cha Mahatmana Samvadam Imam Ashrashyam Adbhutam Roma Harshanam. Sanjaya Uvacha. Sanjaya said, Iti thus, Aham, I, Vasudevasya of Krishna, Partasya of Arjuna, Cha also, Mahatmana, two great souls, Samvadam, discussing, Imam, this, Ashrausham, heard, Adbhutam, wonder, Roma Harshanam, hair standing on end. Sanjaya said, text 74, thus I have heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna, and so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end. So Sanjaya was a devotee, a pure devotee of, and a disciple of Vyasadeva. And because he was a pleasing devotee of Vyasadeva, he was given the mystic powers to be able to see things that were elsewhere. And in this case, he was able to transmit to King Dhritarashtra the whole Bhagavad Gita and the whole conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, which is, the great fortune of Dhritarashtra. He had caused so much trouble, but he was given the vision of a pure devotee of Krishna, Sanjaya, transmitting, just like Krishna was transmitting to Arjuna. But unfortunately, Dhritarashtra, he got it in the end, but he was told time and time again, and he made so many blunders, and he did so many demoniac things, and was partially responsible for this battle, because he didn't check his son Duryodhana from causing so much, harassing the saintly Pandava brothers so much, of being so unfair and trying to kill them. But in the end, Arjuna and King Yudhisthira, Emperor Yudhisthira, his older brother of Arjuna, they were respectful because King Dhritarashtra was the maternal uncle, the brother of their father, Pandu. And Pandu had died early when they were young, and King Dhritarashtra had pretty much taken care of them. Not done a very good job, of course, but in the end, they were taking care of him, and he was getting old and blind. He was already blind, and his body was falling apart, and they were treating him like he was still the king, even though King Yudhisthira was the rightful king. And Vidura, the brother of Dhritarashtra and Pandu, half-brother, actually, but he was a pure devotee also, and he had tried to guide his brother, his blind brother spiritually and blind brother materially, in the matter of spiritual knowledge and trying to do the right thing. Not really successful a lot of times, but in the end, he came back because he had gone away for a while after the battle, and he saw that his brother was still being taken care of, and he was dying, and he was still being, living a lavish material life. And he just said, what are you doing? You're a decrepit old man who's about to die, and you're wasting your time, and your nephews are being magnanimous by taking care of you after all you've done against them. He said, you should be going to the forest and giving up and meditating on Lord Vishnu in your heart. And anyway, he finally convinced Dhritarashtra, so they both left to the forest just in their loincloth, which is how kings normally did. There, in saintly kings would just leave all their riches, their wives, and all that, and left. And there's more to that story. The nephews were wondering where they went and was worried, but I think Narada Muni showed up and explained what was going on. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, Dhritarashtra inquired from his secretary Sanjaya what happened in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The entire study was related to the heart of Sanjaya by the grace of his spiritual master Vyasa. He thus explained the theme of the battlefield. The conversation was wonderful because it had such an important conversation between two great souls never took place before and would not take place again. It is wonderful because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is speaking about himself and his energies to the living entity, Arjuna, a great devotee of the Lord. If we follow in the footsteps of Arjuna to understand Krishna, then our life will be happy and successful. Sanjaya realized this, and he began to understand it. He related the conversation to Dhritarashtra. And as he began to understand it, he related the conversation to Dhritarashtra. Now it is concluded that wherever there is Krishna and Arjuna, there is victory. Text 75. Vyasa prashadak trutavan etad guyam aham param yogam yogeshvarat krishnat sakshad kata yata svayam. Vyas prashadat, by the mercy of Vyasadeva, Shrutavan, heard, etat, this, Guyam, confidential, Aham, I, Param, the supreme, Yogam, mysticism, Yogeshvarat, from the master of all mysticism, Krishnat, from Krishna, Shakshat, directly, Katayata, speaking, Svayam, personally. Translation. By the mercy of Vyasa, I have heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who is speaking personally to Arjuna. Purport. Vyasa was the spiritual master of Sanjaya, and Sanjaya admits that it was by his mercy that he could understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the devotee of Krishna never feels like he has anything that isn't the mercy of his spiritual master. Even my spiritual master, who is the greatest saint and most knowledgeable, will never take credit for being such. He'll not say how great he was. He'll just praise his spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, as being his life and soul, and that he was only able to understand through his grace. And that's what it is. And it is, anything I know about spiritual life is from the grace of my spiritual master, Jagadguru Siddha Swarapananda Paramahamsa Prabhupada. And this means that one has to understand Krishna not directly, but through the medium of the spiritual master. And that's the message of this Bhagavad Gita, once we say again, like in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's how Vedic knowledge is transmitted through the spiritual master. Krishna was acting as spiritual master to Arjuna. The spiritual master is the transparent medium, although it is true that the experience is direct. This is the mystery of the disciplic succession. When the spiritual master is bona fide, then one can hear Bhagavad Gita directly as Arjuna heard it. There are many mystics and yogis all over the world, but Krishna is the master of all yoga systems. Krishna's instruction is explicitly stated in Bhagavad Gita: surrender unto Krishna. One who does so is the topmost yogi. This is confirmed in the last verse of the 6th chapter, Yoginam Api Sharvesham. Narada is a direct disciple of Krishna and the spiritual master of Vyasa. Therefore, Vyasa is as bona fide as Arjuna, because he comes in the disciplic succession, and Sanjaya is a direct disciple of Vyasa. Therefore, by the grace of Vyasa, his senses were purified, and he could see and hear Krishna directly. One who directly hears Krishna can understand this confidential knowledge. If one does not come to the disciplic succession, he cannot hear Krishna. Therefore, his knowledge is always imperfect, at least as far as his understanding of Bhagavad Gita is concerned. In Bhagavad Gita, all the yoga systems, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga are explained. Krishna is the master of all such mysticism. It is to be understood, however, that as Arjuna was fortunate enough to understand Krishna directly, similarly, by the grace of Vyasa, Sanjaya was also able to hear Krishna directly. Actually, there is no difference in hearing directly from Krishna or hearing directly from Krishna via the bona fide spiritual master like Vyasa. The spiritual master is a representative of Vyasadeva also. According to the Vedic system, on the birthday of the spiritual master, the disciples conduct a ceremony called Vyasa Puj. And we just celebrated my spiritual master's Vyasa Puj a couple days ago. Very wonderful. So amazing. Text 76. Rajan Shamshmrita Shamshmritya Samvadam Imam Abhutam Keshavarjuna Yoho Panam Hishyami Cha Muhur Muhu. Rajan. O King. Samsmrita, remembering. Shamsmrita, remembering. Samvadam, message. Imam, this. Adbhutam, wonderful. Keshava, Lord Krishna. Arjuna, yo, and Arjuna. Punyam, pious. Rishyami, taking pleasure. Cha, also. Muha, always repeatedly. O King, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. The understanding of Bhagavad Gita is so transcendental that anyone who becomes conversant with the topics of Arjuna and Krishna becomes righteous, and he cannot forget such talks. This is the transcendental position of spiritual life. In other words, one who hears the Gita from the right source, directly from Krishna, attains full Krishna consciousness. The result of Krishna consciousness is that one becomes increasingly enlightened, and he enjoys life with a thrill, not only for some time, but at every moment. So this obtaining to Krishna consciousness is not something that we attain later when we leave this world, but it is something that we can attain now. It is eternal. It is not some designation. It's constantly present. We are uncovering it from our material contamination. Text 77. Tacha Shamrita Shamsmrita Rupam Atyaputam Hare Vishmayo Me Mayan Rajan Hilishami Cha Punya Puna Latat that Cha also Shamsmrita, remembering. Shamsmrita, remembering. Rupam, form. Ati, grace. Adbhutam, wonderful. Hare, of Lord Krishna. Vishmaya, wonder. Me, my. Mahan, me, great. Rajan, O king. Rishyami, enjoying. Cha, also. Punya, repeatedly. Translation. O king, when I remember that wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with even greater wonder, and I rejoice again and again. It appears, this reminds me of the story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where there is a Brahmin who is reading from the Bhagavad Gita, but he's reading it upside down or something like that. And Lord Chaitanya, people all over the Brahmins are making fun of him because he's reading. But he actually states to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who stops and asks him about it, that he was instructed by his spiritual master to read from the Bhagavad Gita, but that he was illiterate. But that he would imagine Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield, and he was in this great bliss. And so Lord Chaitanya was very pleased with him, one, because he was taking the instructions of his spiritual master so seriously, and two, because he was just, even though he was illiterate and couldn't read Sanskrit correctly, he was able to still glean the truth of the Bhagavad Gita by the grace of his spiritual master. That's a wonderful message here. It appears that Sanjaya also, by the grace of Vyasa, could see the universal form of Krishna exhibited to Arjuna. It is, of course, said that Lord Krishna never exhibited such a form before. It was exhibited to Arjuna only, yet some great devotees could also see the universal form of Krishna when it was shown to Arjuna, and Vyasa was one of them. He is one of the great devotees of the Lord, and he is considered to be a powerful incarnation of Krishna. He's the literary incarnation of Krishna, and he documented all these great scriptures and the Vedas, documented it down for the age of Kali. Vyasa disclosed this to his disciple, Sanjaya, who remembered that wonderful form of Krishna exhibited to Arjuna, enjoyed it repeatedly. Text 78. Okay. Yatra Yogeshvara Krishna Piyatra Partho Danur Daraha Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama Yatra, where Yogeshvara, the master of mysticism. Krishna, Lord Krishna. Yatra, where Partha, the son of Prita. Danur Daraha, the carrier of the bow and arrow. Tatra, there. Shri, opulence. Vijaya, victory. Bhuti, exceptional power. Dhruva, certainly. Niti, morality. Mati mama is my opinion. Translation, text 78. Whenever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and whenever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. Wonderful. The Bhagavad Gita began with the inquiry of Dhritarashtra. He was hopeful of the victory of his sons, assisted by great warriors like Bhishma, Drona, and Karna. He was hopeful that the victory would be on his side, but after describing the scene on the battlefield, Sanjaya told the king, "You are thinking of victory, but my opinion is that where Krishna and Arjuna are present, there will be all good fortune." So Arjuna had the vision to know, even though he maybe didn't understand the breadth of Krishna being the Supreme Personality of God. When Krishna gave him the option of having him or his army, he immediately took Krishna. And that was the greatest battle strategy, even though Krishna's army was amazing army. To have Krishna, doesn't matter if you have the greatest army without Krishna, it's not anything. He directly confirmed that Dhritarashtra could not expect victory for his side. Victory was certain for the side of Arjuna because Krishna was there. Krishna's acceptance of the post of charioteer for Arjuna was an exhibition of another opulence. Krishna is full of all opulences, and renunciation is one of them. There are many instances of such renunciation, for Krishna is also the master of renunciation. Krishna took on a role, as a charioteer driver that was considered to be, actually Shudras did that, and so it was lowly. It wasn't as high as Kshatriyas. It was considered a lowly job. And Karna, who was the son of Kunti and the sun god, the half-brothers of the Pandavas, unknown to them for so many years, he was raised and found because he was put in a boat, and was found among the reeds, kind of like Moses. That's what's really interesting connection. Kunti put him in a boat and let him float away, and he was found by a chariot driver who was a Shudra, right? And so he was also going to be but he had this, because he was really born of great parents, Kshatriyas and the demigod, sun god, Surya. He was actually very powerful and an incredible warrior. And so, anyway, the fight was actually between Duryodhana and Yudhishthira. Arjuna was fighting on behalf of his elder brother, Yudhishthira, because Krishna and Arjuna were on the side of Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira's victory was certain. The battle was to decide who would rule the world, and Sanjaya predicted that the power would be transferred to Yudhishthira. See, it was rightfully the Pandavas, but you have to read the Mahabharata to see the whole unfolding of the story and how this battle came to be. It is also predicted here that Yudhishthira, after gaining victory in the battle, would flourish more and more because he was not only a righteous and pious, but he was a strict moralist. He never spoke a lie during his life. There are many less intelligent persons who take Bhagavad Gita to be a discussion of topics between two friends in a battlefield, but such a book cannot be scripture. Some may protest that Krishna incited Arjuna to fight, which is immoral, but the reality of the situation is clearly stated. Bhagavad Gita is the supreme instruction in morality. The supreme instruction of morality is stated in the 9th chapter, in the 34th verse, Manmana Bhava Mad Bhaktaha. One must become a devotee of Krishna, and the essence of all religion is to surrender unto Krishna, as stated. Sarva Dharman. The instructions of Bhagavad Gita constitute the supreme process of religion and of morality. All other processes may be purifying and may lead to this process, but the last instruction of the Gita is the last word in all morality and religion. Surrender unto Krishna. This is the verdict of the 18th chapter. From Bhagavad Gita, we can understand that to realize oneself by philosophical speculation and by meditation is one process, but to fully surrender unto Krishna is the highest perfection. This is the essence of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. The path of regulative principles according to the orders of social life and according to the different courses of religion may be a confidential path of knowledge, and as far as the rituals of religion are confidential, but one is still involved with meditation and cultivation of knowledge. Surrender unto Krishna in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is the most confidential instruction and is the essence of the 18th chapter. Another feature of Bhagavad Gita is that the actual truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Absolute truth is realized in three features: impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Perfect knowledge of the absolute truth means perfect knowledge of Krishna. If one understands Krishna, then all the departments of knowledge are part and parcel of that understanding. So there are a lot of things that we talked about, but understanding Krishna, everything naturally takes part. You don't have to do these kind of little particles and little steps. You can, that's why they're there, but surrender to Krishna reveals all these things. And so when we read all the knowledge, it's good to know these knowledge, but the ultimate essence and the ultimate conclusion, as it says here, the perfection of renunciation is to surrender to Krishna in love and affection. Krishna is transcendental, for he is always situated in his eternal internal potency. The living entities are manifested and are divided into two classes: eternally conditioned and eternally liberated. Nitya Bandha and Nitya Moksha, I think is so maybe the Such living entities are innumerable, and they are considered fundamental parts of Krishna. Material energy is manifested into 24 divisions. The creation is affected by eternal time, and it is created and dissolved by external energy. This manifestation of the cosmic world repeatedly becomes visible and invisible. In Bhagavad Gita 5, principal subject matters have been discussed: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, material nature, the living entities, eternal time, and all kinds of activities. All of these are dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. All conceptions of the absolute truth, namely impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and any other transcendental conception, exist within the category of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although superficially the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the living entity, material nature, and time appear to be different, nothing is different from the Supreme, but the Supreme is always different from everything. Lord Chaitanya's philosophy is that inconceivably one and different. Such system of philosophy constitutes perfect knowledge of the absolute truth. The living entity in his original position is pure spirit. He is just an atomic particle of the Supreme Spirit. The conditioned living entity, however, is the marginal energy of the Lord. He tends to be in contact with both the material energy and the spiritual energy. In other words, the living entity is situated between the two energies of the Lord, and because he belongs to the superior energy of the Lord, he has a particle of independence. By proper use of that independence, he comes under the direct order of Krishna. Thus he attains his normal condition in the pleasure-giving potency. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 18th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of its conclusions, the perfection of renunciation. Ooh, Haribol. Yes, great. Wow, that was so amazing. Thank you so much. We have finished the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you, those of you who have been following along, and please accept my most humble obeisances. We will be turning our classes to the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we've started, but I think we also start the Nectar of Devotions, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami, translated by and purported upon by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This class is kind of long, but I think just to finish this Bhagavad Gita class out, we will chant just a little bit. Namasita Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gorakaya Swamitaya Hare Krishna Prasayate Namasita Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gorakaya Krishna Prasayate Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Hare Bol Nitya Gaura Nitya Gaura 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 Hare Bol Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Jai Jai Guru Dev, Jai Jai Gauranga, Jai Jai Guru Dev, Jai Jai Gauranga, Jai Jai Guru Dev, Jai Jai Gauranga, Jai 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 Guru Dev, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Jai Guru Dev, Jai Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Jai Guru Dev, Jai Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Jai Guru Dev, Jai Srila Haribol. Thank you so much. We'll see you for the next class. Namaste.